timeline what we are going to cover with regards to modern India. That will give you an understanding. If you're getting anything above 4 in your subjective test, it's very, 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 very good. So see, ironically, what we have to cover in our modern India is a very long timeline. And you need to be very, very clear of what you don't need to do in the sense. I'll tell you. For example, our story started in 1613. However, the major moment in 1757, which we'll discuss Plassey today. Thereafter, Battle of Buxar and the Grant of Diwani. Then what is called as constitutional history, 2 moments which are called the 1813-1833 Charter Act. And thereafter, we will come to 1857. Basically, anything before 1857 is just establishment and consolidation. This is the period of establishment and consolidation. And establishment and consolidation. Whilst here we have advent of Europeans, the concept of expansion, social religious reform movement, economic policy, all comes here. But the real story of nationalism starts after 1857, once crown rule will come in India. And thereafter, we'll start to go into 1885, the making of the INC. Thereafter, 1905, Swadeshi movement. Thereafter, 1919, the Rowlatt Satyagraha. Thereafter, 1920 to 22, which is NCM. Now, 1931. Thereafter, 1940, 42, 45, 46, and 47. So, the real part of this story, real part of modern India is here with the INC formation to Swadeshi, to Rowlatt Satyagraha, to NCM, to CDM, non-cooperation to civil disobedience, to August offer, to Cripps mission, quit India, INA, RIN, and then independence. We are very, very in a very small section here. We are still caught up in this period, So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to contextualize with you what we are actually doing. So you need to understand this, that you don't have to go into the micro history here, don't have to go into the nitty-gritty. We have to just come till 1857 and we have to understand how does the British establish and consolidate, and that is based on economic, social, administrative, constitutional and expansionary policy. Thereafter, the real discussion, Gandhi, Bose, Nehru, with regards to Swadeshi movement, with regards to what we call as moderates, extremists, Home Rule League, advent of Gandhi. If you want to add here, 1915, advent of Gandhi. What is he going to do? These are very, very important discussions, and the questions mostly come from this section. So the purpose of this discussion is very simple, very, very simple. I am slowly but surely making a building block. And the first building block is already done, which is the concept of Mughal decline, I hope Mughal decline is clear with everybody. We discussed this in the first class. Yes or no? Yes? Yes. Thereafter, the second building block was advent of Europeans. How the Europeans started to expand. This is the second building block which is done. And now I'll finish the third building block, which is the regional powers. And once we are done with regional powers, we have already discussed 3 of them, 2 are there, 3 are there more than, and then we will go to expansion. It is expansion where the real interesting part will come, but expansion is also a building block only, because we are slowly moving towards the real end of the story. So we'll do expansion, then we'll do consolidation, then we'll do land revenue policy, then we'll discuss what is called economic policy, then we'll go into much what are called awaited sections, social religious reform movement, the tribal revolt, and then do 1857. So very simply, everything what we do is very progressively changing in that sense, and everything has its own movement. Is this clear? I'm just trying to tell you what is modern India. Modern India is this whole story. And we are still in 1% of it. Now, I was casting a movie and I had already cast 2-3 very important personalities. If you remember, in Bengal, who was there? In Bengal, who was there? Bengal, the most important personality for our movie. Very good. Starts with Murshid Quli Khan, goes to Sujauddin, thereafter to Ali Vardi Khan, and then comes to Siraj ud Dawla. Siraj ud Dawla. Now, the Siraj ud Dawla role we will discuss today when we'll talk about Plassey. But then we moved to Awadh. And at Awadh, who did we cast? We cast Suja ud Dawla. Very good. These two personalities are actually linked to the same story, which is related to Bengal. And then we went to Hyderabad. At Hyderabad, we cast a very dangerous named person, Nizam-ul-Mulk Asaf Jah. And we will discuss Nizam-ul-Mulk Asaf Jah and his successors' politics when we'll talk about Karnatic. And what we now need to understand, Chin Kilich Khan name changes his name. Now what we need to discuss is what is going to happen in Mysore and thereafter the Karnatic sector. Small discussion on the Rajput states, the Jats, and as I said, when we'll talk about the Marathas, we'll discuss Maratha politics there. Rohilla, Jats, Rajputs, I will discuss with you. Sikh, Maratha, I will discuss when we'll discuss the war itself. So, simple point is, 3 of our important personalities are casted. As I said, I've been creating a picture in front of you for the past 4 classes, which is how was India declining, how were the Europeans coming to power, and now we have regional kingdoms in that sense. Now, can I talk about what we call as Mysore? Yes? Great. When we talk about Mysore is a very important part of our story, and it is because it will produce 2 very important personalities, Haidar Ali and Tipu Sultan, both very conscious of the British presence and British domination in India. But rather the way they come out is that Mysore was not fully ever under Mughal control. But by the time the Mughals started to decline, there was a kingdom or dynasty which emerged. Their name is Vodayar dynasty. And the last ruler of the Vodayar dynasty was technically not ruling very well, but rather was being ruled by his own prime minister, whose name was Nanj Raj. So the ruler Chikkadevaraya Vodayar was more or less useless in this story, and his prime minister was Nanj Raj, and he was ruling in his name. This is called real power and nominal power, Vodayar and Nanj Raj. Now Mysore is ruled by Vodayar dynasty, and Nanj Raj is technically ruling in the name of, or is technically having the real power. Now Haidar Ali was one of the officers within the Vodayar dynasty, and he realizes that Nanj Raj is exploiting the people, and he will challenge Nanj Raj and capture power. So if you remember, Murshid Quli Khan was made first the Diwan, then the Nazim, then the Subedar, and then he captures power. Chin Kilich Khan, again Subedar, captures power. And Sadadullah Khan, thereafter Safdarjung, and then Sujauddin. Sadadullah Khan, which is Awadh, is also Subedar. What is common to all of them is they are appointed by the Mughals and they capture power. However, here Haidar Ali captures power away from this nominal king called Nanj Raj, and thereafter becomes a very important personality. And Haidar Ali will be then succeeded by Tipu Sultan, and we'll talk about Tipu Sultan and Haidar in quite a lot of detail, when we'll discuss what are called the Anglo-Mysore Wars, which is most probably tomorrow. So the Mysore story is very, very clear, very simple, very simple, as it says here. See, it was under Vijayanagara, then briefly goes under Mughal rule. That is why it's considered a successor state. Thereafter, it went under and became autonomous under Vodayas. Initially, Vodayas are strong, but the one which was ruling at this point of time, Chikkadevaraya Vodayar, was more or less useless. And Haidar Ali was one of the junior officers in his army. So he will then challenge the corrupt prime minister in 1761 and thereafter capture power, and may becoming the most important and the only challenge to the British in that sense. Yes, Nanjaraj is the prime minister of Chikkadevaraya Vodayar, and thereafter Nanjaraj was defeated by Haidar Ali to capture power. Haidar Ali will then be succeeded by Tipu Sultan. We will discuss how he will die after the Second Mysore War. And thereafter, Tipu Sultan, considered one of the most important nationalists, one of the most important personalities who understood, the only one who ever understood the English threat in India. And we'll discuss the way he fought, the concept of his army, the way he had a very modern army or navy because of the French. And the French Revolution connection with Tipu Sultan we'll discuss separately. Basic point of the matter is, what are we doing? I have Suja Uddin in Awadh, Siraj Ud Dawla in Bengal. I have Nizam ul Mulk Asaf Jah in Hyderabad. And now I have Haidar Ali in Mysore. Very simply, Sujaud Dawla. Now, basic point is that I am, as I said, just creating the context, because each of them will play a very important part of the story which I'm going to tell you. So the one place which is still left is the Karnatic. And the Karnatic story, everybody is following me. We are just creating these people, the actors, nothing more, nothing less, nothing difficult here, straightforward. So yeah, on last class, and as soon as I'm done with this topic, I have to discuss with you mains answer writing. So please just wait for 5-10 minutes. We'll discuss mains answer writing, because you would have written about the answers, and I would like to know how did you perform. And generally, the basic point is Sujaud Dawla, Siraju Dawla, Nizamul Mulk Asaf Jah, Haidar Ali, and Karnatic. We are going to do Anglo-Mysore, but we will do it in a sequence. First is the Karnatic War, then it is Bengal, then it is Maratha, then it is Mysore. We will discuss this. We will discuss till today. Don't worry about that, Shafruddin. The basic point of the matter is, are these 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 powers? The fifth power can I discuss with you? Are we all on the same page? I told you before we started this concept that in the larger scheme of modern India, we are still caught up in the initial part of it, and we have to move further. I have already established two power, or what are called 2 foundations in this story. Now we have to do the third foundation in that sense, which is regional powers. And as I said, now the story of Mysore is also clear. We need to just understand now Karnatic. Now Karnatic is very easy. Karnatic is easy because Karnatic, which is modern day Tamil Nadu coast, was actually under Hyderabad. And as soon as Hyderabad will become more or less independent, the Karnatic state will also become independent, which is, there will be a new dynasty which will start under a person called Sadadullah Khan. So Sadat Khan, Sadadullah Khan, and the person who will become important for us is Dost Ali, which is that it was a Suba of the Nizam, which is Hyderabad, and after Hyderabad became a separate state altogether, The Nawab of Karnatic became free, which is Sadullah Khan, and thereafter his nephew Dost Ali will capture power and appoint what is called the Navanith dynasty. Navanith dynasty. Basically, Ashika, doesn't really matter how they came to power. These people are actually just important for my story. That is it. You just need to understand it. Suba means a smaller province. Now let me bring all the successor states together. Can we do that? It's a very simple concept. You don't have to get caught up here in any way or form. We have to keep it simple, and that is what we're trying to do here. We will not get caught up in unnecessary detail. Yes? Come on. We will not get caught up in unnecessary detail. The basic point of the matter is I have to talk about these wars, and I simply have to discuss this in this way. So, very simple, very simple. I'm going to revise with you and you are going to tell me, right? We are going to revise now. In Bengal, who is the most important actor here? What we are doing at this point of time is completing the basic story of regional kingdoms. And we'll move to wars. Very good. The person is Siraj ud Dawla. He is a successor of Ali Vardi Khan, and Bengal is a very important sector as we will talk about. Thereafter, Awadh, very important in this story as we will see. Battle of Buxar. Who is it? Very good. Suja ud Dawla. Very great. Perfect. Now we move to Hyderabad. Who is the personality who is important for us? Chinkilich Khan names himself Nizam ul Mulk Asafja. Now when Hyderabad becomes free, Karnatic becomes free. And in Karnatic, who comes to power? He is our friend. His name is Friend Ali, Dost Ali. And last but not the least is Mysore. And in Mysore, we will see the rise of Haidar Ali or later Tipu Sultan. Now, can you remember these basic names for me? I'm not asking you to remember how they came to power. That is my prerogative to tell you. Can we all remember this? Vipin, doesn't matter. Don't worry. I know there's an issue. Don't worry. Just join. Okay. Great. You can. And I'm extremely grateful if you can. Perfect. Now, Karnatic, as I said, was part of the Hyderabad state. Once Hyderabad state will become free, Karnatic will also carve out its own space, and basically in this larger map as you see here, we have now created the Karnatic sector, Mysore, Hyderabad, and you have Bengal, and you have Awadh. Now we have certain rebel states to do. As I said, Marathas and Punjab, I will do separately when I'll do Anglo-Maratha or Anglo-Sikh war in that sense. And the basic point of the matter is, don't worry, Bhumika, I know that we have to discuss the Rajput states. But in the Rajput states, there's only one personality who is very important to us. And that person is Savai Jai Singh of Amber. And why is Savai Jai Singh of Amber? It's called the Navatha dynasty. Which dynasty in Karnatic region? Dost Ali comes from the Nayavath dynasty. That's it. Now, the only one which we need to discuss is because Savai Jai Singh is the one who established none other than the Jaipur city itself, and also he is the one who is known for what is called Jantar Mantar. Jantar Mantar, if you've seen in Delhi or in Jaipur, you would know. Travancore, Aditi will discuss with reference to Karnatic. Don't worry about that. Basic point is Jantar Mantar is a astrological device made in a form of a what we call as a building. These are very beautiful, very technical concepts, and basically Raja Savai Jai Singh, very interesting personality, distinguished statesman, astronomer, and a man of art and science, loved science. He founded this Jaipur city itself and made what are called observatories. These are called Jantar Mantars in Ujjain, Jaipur, Delhi, Varanasi, Mathura. There are 5 observatories which he actually made. He was also the one who even translated one of the most important tables for astronomical, what are called observations, which was called Zil Muhammad Shahi. And basically Zil Muhammad Shahi is an old text which had all these tables for calculations, and he is the one who actually translated them in order to understand how do we calculate what we call as a distance between different planets. And he also was the one who will translate a Greek text called Elements of Geometry into Sanskrit, and trigonometry and Napier's work on logs, as they are called, into the what is called Sanskrit language. But his most important contribution is that within his own kingdom, Jaipur sector, Amber, he made sure that women's marriages, the level of money which was being spent was reduced so that it was not leading to what we call as women's discrimination. The basic point is, see, this is a person, this is a book. You don't need to learn it. The basic point is, if in the examination it says Jantar Mantar or observatories, what are big astrological observatories, can you mark it with Savai Jai Singh of Amber? You tell me. Can you do that much? You can? See, my basic strategy with you is very simple. Very simple. And if you've ever interacted with me, you would know I don't give unnecessary information. You are already a human, I hope, and you already have a capacity. I'm not going to give you anything which is going to bombard you with facts and ask and expect that you learn it. I will every time simply when I'm marking something, that is the only thing which is important. Don't have to get caught up in any details. We have a lot to learn in this story. These are just basic things for prelims. Jantar Mantar is Savai Jai Singh. Is there an issue in that? Jantar Mantar is Savai Jai Singh. Is there an issue in that? No? Perfect. So I hope that you can agree with me and be with me with regards to facts, because facts are something which will totally distort everything. We need to understand modern India in such a way that we can learn and remember facts as much as possible, because it is always very easy for teachers to simply say, learn all of this, learn elements of geography. Does not matter. Simple point is, I am not going to basically bombard you with unnecessary facts. Savai Jai Singh is known for only one most important thing: Jaipur city, Jantar Mantar, and the concept of translating certain books into astronomy. He's a person of astronomy, and that is the basic point. Agreed, everyone? Agreed? Great. If that is agreed, then the next most important personality, or the area which we need to cover is basically the Jats. Jats are a very interesting group of people, and they were always a problem for the Mughals. The Mughals were never able to subdue them. These are agriculturalist communities around Delhi, Agra, and Mathura. And because of the way the Mughals were squeezing the agriculturalists, Jats were the first to revolt in 1669, and thereafter in 1686. Again, don't have to learn this. But basically, the rebellion was based on overexploitation. And what you need to know for the examination rather is, Jat state of Bharatpur was established by a very important personality, Churaman and Badan Singh, and it is Raja Surajmal who will take them to the highest glory, and they will have a proper state before the British are going to capture them. So here we need to remember Raja Surajmal, Churaman and Badan Singh. I know there's a lot of names, but all these names have a purpose. Because when I'll say certain things in expansion, it should not ring or it should not be out of context in that sense. Now, the last but not the least, and thereafter we finish this theme, are the Rohillas. Rohilla is very small state in the Uttarakhand sector. It was actually a person called Muhammad Khan Bangash. He's an Afghanistani person, Afghanistan adventurer, who comes during the period of Farrukhsiyar and Muhammad Shah Rangila and establish himself in the Aligarh Kanpur sector. So the whole that Aligarh Kanpur sector up to Uttarakhand, and he will create it as what is called as, his successor is going to call it as Rohilkhand, Ali Muhammad Khan. First capital was Alon in Bareilly, later Rampur. Simple, 2-3 facts. In the examination, Ali Muhammad Khan Bangash, Rohillas. That is it. Now, simple, very simple concept. Let's consolidate everything. Everybody is with me till this point. Very good. Now, see, what have we done in the past 3 classes? What have we done in the past 3 classes? This is India. This is India. This is India. And at the moment of 1748, rather 46, what is there in India? What is there in India? First point is the Mughals are declining. Mughals have been declining. Anybody has any issue in this with regards to Jagirdari crisis, with regards to weak successors? We had a very long and very elaborate discussion with regards to what is happening in that sense. In that sense, basically, the Mughals have been declining because of systemic issues within them, and therefore, when we talk about the systemic issues, it could be the what are called the invaders coming through. Mughals have been declining because of certain policies. There are too many officers, too less land. There is agrarian crisis, and Mughals have been declining. At the same point of time, Bhavya, don't worry. Same point of time, there is what we call as rise of Europeans in India. Europeans in India. Simply, we had the first the Portuguese, thereafter the Dutch, then the most important, which is the English, and by the time we come to the end, the French. And in between all this, tell me where all does the Danes are there? You want to add Danes here, no issue. But Danes are extremely insignificant in this story. The basic point is, by the time we come to 1746, where all has the English established itself? The English are in Bengal. This is the presence of the English. The English are in Surat. They are controlling Madras. They are controlling the Deccan sector, which is Golconda state. They are in Agra. They are in Ahmedabad. They are in Broch. They are in Bombay. All of this is where the English have already established themselves. Mausolepatnam. Their presence has now become very ominous, very big. And if that was not enough, India was not united. India or Indian subcontinent was not united. In the sense that India was just all of these small states coming together. So you have Bengal, you have Awadh, You have the Jats, you have Punjab, you have the Rohillas, you have the Karnatic, you have Mysore, you have Hyderabad. Nothing left if then Marathas, we will discuss them. Basically, India at this point of time is the most vulnerable because Punjab, Jats, Rohillas, Awadh, Bengal, Mysore, Karnatic, Hyderabad and the Marathas. Do they have a sense of, you want to add Rajputs? Sure, Rajputs. Do they have a sense of unity? Do they have a sense of unity? No, they don't have a sense of unity. Now, my story, the scene is set. You add Rohillas are here. My scene is set. My set is ready. Now my set is ready. So let's one by one call each and every actor. So from Bengal, we get Sirajuddaula. Then our second actor is from Awadh, which is Sujauddaulah. Then our third actor comes from Hyderabad, which is Nizam ul Mulk Asafjah. Then our fourth actor comes from the Karnatic sector, which is Dost Ali. Our fifth actor comes from Mysore, which is Haidar Ali. Then from Jats we have Surajmal and the Marathas and the Punjab sector. We will right now keep it aside because that's a separate issue altogether. So for Savai, jaising is important, but not in the sense of fighting. Is this basic picture clear? Because I put in a lot of time to create a certain set in front of you. A certain set piece is in front of you. I have now created a larger picture of India. If the larger picture of India is clear, then my three basic building blocks are ready. First building block was Mughal decline. Then the next building block was the concept of advent of Europeans. And the third building block was in that sense what we call as the regional kingdoms. Now, if then everything is perfect, can we now discuss the most important expansion of British Raj in India? Regional kingdom means Awadh, Bengal is that. In this, there are four very basic parts. We have to discuss first the Karnatic, then Bengal, then Marathas, and then Mysore. Once Mysore is done, then we'll do Sikhs, and thereafter we'll go into what are called non-direct confrontation politics, which is called subsidiary alliance and doctrine of lapse. So I've been teaching you for now close to four classes. Are you getting the point? What I'm trying to do here? I could have easily done them separately. I am interlinking each of them so as to create a certain picture in your mind. Any discussion I do does not have anything to do with if the basic story. I don't tell you that. Now my stage is set. And before we go to what we call as expansion of British Raj in India, I want to discuss one thing. Firstly, you would have received the objective test on Saturday and the subjective test on Saturday. I hope you understand what is the concept of subjective and objective tests. You would have got 15 to 16 MCQs and you would have got 5 questions from us. Yes. One thing very clearly is that you do not need to worry if you're getting even 50% of the marks or 50% of the questions, which means that without any revision, you're able to get, or you're understanding the classes itself. But a very important thing which I need to discuss with you, which I promised I will do, is how to write a mains answer, or what is the structure of a mains answer of modern India. Can I do that? And then I'll discuss with you these words called elucidate and this and that. This one discussion I think is worthy to be discussed here before we start our discussion with regards to what we have to do in that sense. Because this is something which will really help you in that sense. Divya, there's an issue, I know that. Just join us the way you can. We'll figure it out. It is something which happened in the morning also. Don't worry about that. Okay. Now, please listen to me. Don't have to go to any videos, don't have to go to any form of forum. I'm giving you a structure, you have to follow that. Every answer has 3 parts. One is called introduction, the next is called body, and the third is called conclusion. Now, I saw a lot of your answers. Firstly, first attempt, it makes a lot of sense, but you all are very talented in that sense. You only need direction in that sense. What you've done is that you've written the answer like a katha. Starts from one line, ends in the end. Just going on. This is not the right way to write an answer. Because you are not writing the new Granth or the Ramayana or the Mahabharata. You just start and go like this. No, there's a structure. The structure is that the introduction is always in paragraph form. This can change. This can change for other subjects. For us, paragraph. For modern India, for history, paragraph. The body will always be in point-wise form. And Vivek will get that sorted, don't worry. And then the conclusion is also in paragraph form. Basically, it looks aesthetically better and you are able to convey as quickly as possible what you need to convey. I will make you realize one thing by the end of modern India, that 150 and 250 words are not a lot of words. By the time you will sneeze, you will be already at 50 words. And basically, you have to be very, very precise. Very, very precise. Now, what is the purpose of the introduction? The introduction very specifically, very, very specifically, deals with the context or the historical context. While on the other hand, the body is when you're trying to answer the question itself. And the conclusion is mostly either impact or significance. And for example, here we have context or historical background. Historical background. Is this making sense? The structure? You'll find for history, this is a structure which is very, very important for us. Yes? Perfect. Now, what I'll do is that I'll try to write an answer in front of you. Don't have to copy me. Just see how I'm approaching the question. One of the questions which I gave you on Saturday, I have the list here. I'll answer one of them for you so that you can understand how to go with it. So I gave you fourth question, which is, What are the advantages of private trading companies over governmental funded trading companies? Is the question you're talking about? I gave you causes of decline of Mughal Empire. Blue waters policy was bedrock of colonialism in India. The farmans and concessions and the advantage of trading of what is called the private trading company and a governmental funded trading company. We all can agree to this question. Private trading company, governmental trading company. Yes? So the question we choose is, what are the advantages of a private trading company over a governmental funded company? This is what the question, right? Now, Shavni, there's no issue. No, don't worry about that. You don't have to go for, see, tables work, but I'll tell you how to do it. Now you see how I'm writing, I'm approaching. I'm obviously not writing the 250 word answer to you. Now I have to write the introduction. So what will I write in the introduction? What will I write in the introduction? In the introduction, I will say 3 points. See, and I'm making it up in front of you itself. I will say that when the Europeans came to India, they came in the form of different type of companies. Some of the companies were funded by the government and some of the companies were privately funded companies. For example, the English East India Company was a private company and the Dutch and the French companies were governmentally funded company. I've given them 50 words, basic point. Now I write a very important line. Let us now discuss the advantages of a private company over a governmentally funded company. Now you have two options. Either you go point wise or you make a table. But because the question is not saying compare and contrast, it would look a little bit odd. So what I'm going to do is, I will go into the body. I will not write it in the examination, obviously, it's in my mind. You can make flowcharts if you have the time, why not? And basically in the body, I'm going to say point wise, very simply, when it comes to decision making, privately funded companies respond quicker as they have one or only one centralized form of decision making body over a whole plethora or a whole series of officers or governmental personnel. Decision making is the first thing which I take as marker, decision making. Then second, I talk about orientation. That a privately funded company is always looking for profit, which makes it more aggressive, rather than a governmentally funded company, which is never looking for profits. Therefore, it is always content with whatever it has. Now you talked about decision making and you've talked about orientation. Now you give example. You will say, for example, the English East India Company was constantly seeking farmans and concessions all across India and were trying to expand their area of control. On the other hand, the Portuguese were happy to just hold on to Daman, Diu and Goa, and equally the Dutch were happy to only hold on to Moslippatnam. So you give an examples. And by this time, I've already reached 150 words. So in a 250 word question, this has to be 50 words, this has to be 100 to 150 words. And now I will say in the conclusion that as the history of India is testimony, the English East India Company was always one step forward than the French and the Portuguese and the Dutch because of its joint stock company origin. Therefore, we can see there is always advantages of a private company over governmental trading company. Now tell me one thing. Within these 250 words, did I have space to write facts? Yes or no? No? Then why are you obsessing over facts? Whatever I wrote was a generic question. It's a generic question, generic answer. What did I do? Whatever I taught you, whatever I gave you as an understanding, I wrote that understanding. So why would we try to push it in that sense? So the simple point of the matter is, when there is no scope for putting so many facts, we concentrate on conceptual clarity. See, nobody has the time to check 250 words. They will not count the words. UPSC does not have that much time. But because in the paper you have, see, a mains paper has only limited space. For example, it will have one question here and then one question here. So you have to finish within this space. And you trust me, if you start to write more, the examiner can easily make sure that the question or the answer is more than 250. If you go to 254 and 260, it's not that they will call you and say, remove these 4 words. A little bit of sin is allowed. 250 to 260 is okay. Now 250 to 300 is a problem. Little bit works. So it's not that you go precisely in that sense. Oh God, went to 251. What is going to happen to me? Nothing is going to happen to you. One word, they don't care. But what is going to happen is, I'll tell you a very simple point. I have a question and I have put everything. By the time the paper checker starts to check, he will get to know which is over, which is less, because you will either start to cramp it or it will look too hodgepodge. So UPSC examiner is not sitting there, okay, let us count 1, 2, 3, 4. They will take an eternity to check. It's all what we call as an estimation, mota moti. But basic point is, you do not need to right now think about that. What I want from you is to technically understand how to write an introduction, how to write a body and a conclusion. So I hope this discussion gives you some clarity. I gave you 5 questions. If you've not attempted them, attempt them now. But follow this basic point. Follow this basic point. Can we agree to this? Make sense? Okay, now last discussion before I start expansion of British power with you. You will see a lot of words in the examination. You would have seen it. Elucidate, explain, comment, discuss. As of right now, this is what you've actually seen. Discuss, elucidate, explain, comment, justify, critically analyze, evaluate. These are words which you've seen. Yes or no? Would have seen for sure. Now, what do they mean? What do they mean? Kiran, not an issue at all. No issues at all. See, I'll tell you step by step. Describe, I'll tell you what. See, analyze, critically analyze. The only difference is the word critically. Wherever you see critically, you have to write both positive and negative. Critical. You have to critique it also. Both positive and negative. Analyze means you have to tell them how. Analyze the role of concessions and farmans in the rise of British power in India. How? How did these two work? Analyze. Justify now doesn't come, but justifies that examiner says that the sun is upside down justify. Now, once he said something, you have to justify it. It is to give reasons to support the question. The easiest of all of them is discuss, which is just give points. That is it. Discuss the rise of, discuss the role of. Just give them random points, standard points. Now, elucidate, elaborate are the same thing, which is to demonstrate. Demonstrate. You have to demonstrate through the answer how that line is true. Farrukhsiyar did a blunder in giving the farman to the British. Elucidate. So now you have to demonstrate how it will be a blunder. Comment means that you need to add your own input, but don't start to criticize the government or start to support the British. Demonstrate means to show. And explain and evaluate. Evaluate is mostly about comparing. That evaluate this understanding. And explain is discussing with reasons. Illustrate is also this only. All synonyms to each other. So there is very simple difference between them. Very simple difference between them. Analyze, critically analyze, justify, discuss, elucidate, explain, comment, evaluate. Small. Are you able to understand the basic difference? Because I will keep on telling you this as we go on. This is going to be equally about writing answers, because that is a very important part of modern India. Can I now talk about the expansion of British Raj in India? Come on. Can we talk about that? Okay, perfect. Can you give a clear example of elucidate? I'll give you a very simple example. The Constitution of India has a quasi-federal bias. Elucidate. Now, what you need to demonstrate to them is, how is India a federal structure with unitary bias? Getting my point, Anirudh? So it's technically you showing them how that line works. Mostly elucidate you will find with statements. Underquote, statement and elucidate. Right? Discuss is give points. Discuss is give points. Simple. The difference between explain and discuss is give points, don't give reasons. Explain, give reasons. Can I move on? Expansion of British power. Elucidate is to demonstrate, to show. How, you have to prove. Hence proved. Right? Okay. And I have everybody's consent with regards to entering theme number 4. Very important, very, very interesting also in that sense. Yes? Okay. Ashraf will discuss as we go on. Don't worry about that. Explain is basically explaining with reasons. You have to discuss with reasons. Okay. Now, one thing is very clear. The British have a very good opportunity to get India. They have a very, very good opportunity to get India. And now, see, Portugal is more or less out of the picture. They are not a challenge to the British. We already know that. They're not a challenge to the British. The Dutch, they don't care. the Danes, Denmark, they themselves are more or less useless. Now the British has to expand in India. And the only power the British have to face is now the French. The French are the last to come to India, but are the most important challenge to the English. So the first moment of conflict in India is actually a spillover event from the English sector or from the European sector. Now what I'm discussing with you is called Karnatic War. See, I'm going to discuss with you what is called Karnatic Wars. Karnatic Wars, I'll show you Karnatic for basic reference. This is the Karnatic sector, Arcot being the capital. This is Karnatic. And basically the Karnatic War, there are three Karnatic Wars. First, second, and third. But the Karnatic Wars are actually also called Anglo-French Wars in India. Because the Karnatic War was a product of English and French struggle for domination. And the irony of the story is that once the third Karnatic War will be over, Anglo means English, once the like India, Indo, English, Anglo. The basic point is after the third Karnatic War, the French will cease to be a threat to the British in India. Basically, once the third Karnatic War will happen, one thing was sure, that now the French will not be able to expand. But why am I showing you the map? Why am I showing you the map of Europe? Is because the first and the third Karnatic War, the reasons don't lie in India. The reasons are in Europe and it is only the second Karnatic War that the reasons are in India. So can I now discuss the reason for Anglo-French rivalry and the first Karnatic War itself? We can discuss that? Great. Now, see, Anglo-French rivalry in India was based on a lot of things. They were already rivals in Europe. The French and the English didn't speak to each other. They are now also locked in a commercial and political rivalry in India. One thing is also sure, that Indian political units are very weak. We already saw that. And it's about who will control Indian trade. It was about who will control Indian trade. But the reason why all of this boils over is that first thing you need to understand is the Carnatic is a very dangerous sector. I'll tell you why. If you look at the Carnatic sector, the French are here which is Puducherry, and the English are here, which is Madras. So basically they are in very close proximity. They are in very close proximity to each other. And it's technically about controlling this arc. Who will control this arc is very, very important. So they already don't like each other. They are in close proximity to each other. Now things will start to become a little bit explosive in Europe. Can I discuss that? Are you getting this scene? Because each and every war happens with a scene set. So I'll tell you one thing, very important thing. Don't write anything. Don't do anything. Sit back, relax, and listen to the story. Everything is written in the PPT. I want you to look at it like a movie. Once the movie will be over, when we'll go through the PPT, you will come forward and listen to and give attention. Can we agree to this? I don't want you to be fiddling. I want you to concentrate on the screen and understand it like a sequence of events which are unfolding in this sector. Right? So don't have to worry about anything. Everything I write in the PPT is going to be given to you. So don't have to do anything with that regard. The arch is very important because that is like the gateway into the Indian sector. If you have to go to peninsular India, you need to control this sector. Very good. Now listen to me. See, it's not like France and England had not already fought. They had already fought. There's something called the 100 Years' War. There's something called the 30 Years' War. These two were always fighting previously in 1400s, 1500s itself. But now in the 1740 period, something happens. The arc is important because for inland trade. Something happens in Austria. Though this is technically the Austro-Hungarian Empire was much bigger, but to give you the basic location. In Austria, the king dies. And now it was about who is going to succeed the Austrian king. The name of the king does not matter to you. We'll discuss this again in world history also. And now there is a major power struggle between two parts. First, the son of the king, which is Charles II, and the daughter of the king, which is Maria Theresa. Again, don't have to learn the name. Just listen to me, enjoy it. So there's Maria Theresa and there is Charles II. So now two factions have developed. This is called War of Succession. Who will succeed? Happens everywhere, happened in India, happens everywhere. So now there is one group and there's a second group. And there are certain powers which start to support certain groups. For example, the group of Maria Theresa was supported by the English because England also has a rule that women can come to power. For example, Elizabeth, Victoria, all of them. But the other one, Charles II, he gets the support from France. So while Maria Theresa gets support from England, France gives its support to Charles II. Now this starts to bubble up and become bigger and bigger and bigger in Europe. And this is called the Austrian War of Succession, which happened between 1740 to 48 in Europe. It's a very specific thing in Europe. It's a Europe specific thing. Now you need to see something, which is that there are camps which will develop. There are camps which will develop. For example, France, Prussia, Spain. Prussia is nothing but Germany. Bavaria, Sicily, Naples, Genoa, Sweden. And it will become versus the British, Habsburg, Hanover, Dutch, Sardinia, Russia. Basically, there are two camps which develop in Europe, which is the British camp versus the French camp, which is called the Austrian War of Succession. Can we agree to this much? The finer details are not important to us. What is Habsburgian Empire? All of that I will discuss with you with regards to world history. Right now, we can agree that there are two camps which have developed, which is British and the French. And now there is tension rising in Europe. Tension rising in Europe, and the British are supporting the Austrian successor Maria Theresa. Charles II supported by the French. They gain nothing, just that the same person who will come to power is going to be that. It's a very European thing, and it has nothing to do with India. Camp means groups, two groups of power. We don't care which are the smaller chutput powers, doesn't matter. These two big powers are locking horns. Can we agree to this? I want everybody's understanding, because then I talk to you about the first Karnatic War. Now what is going to happen is, now we're discussing the first Karnatic War. First Karnatic War, which is 1746-48, is that there is rising tension in Europe because of the context being the Austrian War of Succession. And now the Karnatic sector has two of these powers, the Puducherry or Pondicherry, and a little bit north of it, not exactly, but is Madras. And this is the English, and this is the French. Who is the king of Karnatic at this point of time? Very good. It was Dost Ali. But by the time we come to 1746-48, Dost Ali has been succeeded informally by a person called Anwaruddin. Anwaruddin is the successor of Dost Ali informally. And the British and the French are sitting in this sector, and the rising context is Austrian War of Succession happening in Europe. Scene clear, geography clear. Come on, tell me. Then I tell you what happens. Don't bring in Chand Sahib right now. That is second Karnatic War. Informally means not formally, in the sense that he's not fully taken over. Dost Ali still is an old man, but Anwaruddin takes the decisions. Now the French governor Dupleix, I told you, remember his name. Dupleix says to the English, See, let's be smart. Let's be smart. We don't need to fight here. If they're fighting in Europe, let them fight here. We need to be smart, and we should not spill over that conflict into India. We should not spill over the conflict into India, which is, let's be smart. So Dupleix sends a message to the English. Let us avoid conflict in India. However, the English were in no mood for that. The English were in no mood for that. And very simply, there were certain ships of the French in the Bay of Bengal, and these ships were intercepted by the English, and this, see, first is let us avoid, second is there is English seize and destroy French ships in India. Is this a foolish move or is this a very smart move by the English? Foolish or smart? It's a foolish move. This is called the rising nationalism. We will fight it out. So now the French say, you leave us no choice. I told you that if we are going to have a conflict in India, it is going to go out of hand. So now the French attack Madras. French attack Madras, and basically they seize and control the St. George Fort. They seize and control the St. George Fort. So the French said, do not fight. The English say, we will fight. And the Austrian War of Succession has now spilled over into India, and very simply the French very simply go, and the basic point is French have the power at this point of time to go to Madras and seize Fort St. George. Is the first 4 points clear? Everything is in front of you on the map. Who is the initial aggressor? You tell me. English. English are the initial aggressor. But now you tell me, you just tell me, what should the English do? What should the English do? The English would technically or should respond by fighting, retaliate. That is basic concept, retaliate. But the English are too smart. They're very, very smart, very smart. They go to Anwaruddin and they say, the French hit us. मेरे को मारा. That you, Anwaruddin, you exist and you are there, and still the French have hit me. आपके होते हुए, because you exist, the mighty Anwaruddin is there, and the French have the guts to go and take an area in your area. This is how the English used to play Indian territories. Very simply, the British say to Anwaruddin, how can you do this? How can you do this, you mighty Anwaruddin, the king, the Nawab of Karnatic? How can you let this happen? Injustice. Injustice. Madras is a fort of the English. However, it comes under your territory. And now they technically start to butter the ego of the Nawab. Butter the ego of the Nawab. And the foolish Anwaruddin, what he will do is, he was like, yes, you're right. How can this happen? So rather than fighting the French directly in this battle, now English seek help from Anwaruddin, and Anwaruddin, in the most foolish move possible, Anwaruddin is going to attack the French at Puducherry, and the French will defeat the Anwaruddin army. I will give you a flow chart for this, don't worry. Try to understand it through the map. And the first Karnatic War is won by the French in India. Now, but there's a twist to the story. There's a very simple twist to the story. What has happened is, English attack French ships. French take St. George. St. George, English move to Anwaruddin. Anwaruddin attacks the French. The French defeat Anwaruddin. The sequence makes sense? Simple, very simple sequence. The English did not fight the battle only. This is called the smartness at a new level altogether. So who got defeated was not the British, but Anwaruddin. But meanwhile, what happens is that in the Austrian War of Succession, in 1748, English faction will win the Austrian War of Succession. And basically this whole conflict will end with what is called the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle. Aix-la-Chapelle, and Aix-la-Chapelle is a place in France. Chapelle. And France will foolishly return, because they lost. France will return Madras to English. Will return Madras to English. Now tell me one thing. Tell me one thing. In all of this, did the English spend even 1 rupee? 1 rupee, even 1 rupee? No. So now Anwaruddin has a problem with the French. Anwaruddin lost also. Somehow the French won but lost. The French won but lost because they lost the main battle. They lost the main battle itself. So the first Carnatic War is nothing but a product of what we call as the Austrian War of Succession. Are these 7 points making sense? Then I write them down for you and we move to the second Carnatic War. I hope this is working, this type of approach is working via map and understanding the larger context here first, and then we will go into the nitty-gritty. So who technically won the Carnatic War? That is the basic question. Carnatic War was won by the French, but the main war was lost by the French. So the ultimate winner is the English only. Okay. Now, that is the basic point. Bhavya, the conflict is not here. So even signing a treaty will not do anything. The main war is this. This is the main war. All of this is just a spillover of that. See, simple. What is the first Carnatic War? First Carnatic War, I'll write it down for you. First Carnatic War. Everybody is following me. You will find it in the book in a very confusing way. Please, I'm trying to keep it simple here. Nothing needs to be done. Understand it very clearly. Okay. You try to open one spectrum and you will find this to be the worst chapters in spectrum itself. Okay. Austrian War of Succession starts in Europe. In Europe, 1740 to 48, spills over, or rather rising tension between French and English. Then the conflict spills over into India, and the sequence is very simple. English attack the French ships. French seize St. George Fort or Madras. English move to Nawab Anwaruddin of Karnataka. Anwaruddin attacks French for aggression. French defeat Anwaruddin. However, Austrian war ends with French defeat. And what is the product of that? Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle. Done, everyone? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Can I read it out of the PPT? Anwaruddin lost. Dostali was already out of the picture. See, French were concentrated in Pondicherry. They wanted to influence Karnatic and Mysore. And the west, you have the Marathas can't go anywhere. And Bengal is not open right now. So it is the Austrian War of Succession which becomes the context of all this which is going to happen. And as I said, the Austrian War of Succession will be two parties fighting together. The French did not want aggression to reach India. Dupleix will advise the English to maintain neutrality. How the English will seize some French ships in the southeastern coast of India. This will become the starting point. The French from Mauritius will arrive under, now you don't need to remember their names, La Bourdonnaise, and invade Saint Fort St. George and capture it. The English will appeal to the Nawab of Karnatic, Anwaruddin. Anwaruddin asked the French to leave Madras, but they neglected their advice. At the Battle of St. Thomas, the Nawab sent an army to fight the French on the banks of River Adyar near St. Thomas. French sent a small but efficient army under Captain Paradise. The Nawab's forces will suffer a decisive defeat due to lack of technological development. Simple point. The larger story is that the Austrian War of Succession will be lost. Maria Theresa is going to win. And Britain, France, Dutch, Spain, Austria, and Genoa, which is Italian states, will sign a treaty. The treaty will end the conflict in the European theater. And this will bring the Austrian War of Succession to a conclusion. Foolishly, because the French wanted some territories back in North America, which we will discuss when we'll discuss world history for American Revolution, they will return back Madras to the English. And this is the basic point. The Austrian War of the First Carnatic War, 46 to 48, is nothing but how the world is now getting connected, and the Austrian War of Succession spilled over into India. Austrian War of Succession is nothing but two camps which had developed in Europe over who will come to power in Austria, and these two camps, Britain and France, were on the opposite sides over who will win, Maria Theresa versus Charles II. Again, not important for you in that larger context. Is this clear? Come on, everyone. Is this clear? I give you a break after we do Carnatic Wars. Everybody is with me? Okay, very good. Very good, great. Now let's talk about Second Carnatic War. Can we discuss Second Carnatic War? Aware, remembering what you need to remember here very simply is that the French had already showed their hand. The problem was that, as you can see, French displayed their superiority. He showed his skill and diplomacy, but now the English will know what is the power of the French in India. This is like playing poker. The French had already showed their hand. Now, again, Seni does not matter to me. I don't care who is Maria Theresa. I don't care who is Charles IV, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 10th. It does not matter to me. What matters to me is what is happening in India. And you understand that the both are on the opposite sides in that sense. Right? Now, let us discuss. This is a very important area for both prelims and mains. Mains, they have not asked a question till this point. I'm telling you, you have to understand it. The purpose I will tell you later. Simple point is, enjoy the story. You have to understand how the British play. You need to understand the technique of the British. Is everybody with me? Okay. If you are doing it for 2023, it is equally more important. Because I am discussing these names, this should stick to your mind. Anwaruddin, British, that's it. La Bourdonnaise and St. Thomas, not important for you. Now, Second Carnatic War. One is which is called which is proper hodgepodge. Now you need to play a little bit. If you can learn that flowchart, your work is done. French, English fight the French, French take. English go to Anwaruddin attacks French, defeat. What is there? Not difficult. Is this a difficult story? No, it's just a sequence of events which is happening. Okay, now there is a state called Hyderabad, and we already know there is a one state here which is Karnatic. Yes or no? Arvanuddin will lose his position very quickly. You will see. Second Karnatic War, you will see. Now, Second Karnatic War is all Indian, but it will show a very important tendency. How the British and French will start to meddle into Indian politics. Meddle into Indian politics. Now, in Hyderabad, Nizam ul Mulk is dead. Nizam ul Mulk Asaf Jah is dead. And there are two people who have to come to power. Or they're fighting for power. One is called Nasir Jang. Again, please don't be scared of the names. You don't have to learn them. Please just concentrate. Nizamul Mulk Asaf Jah, Nasir Jang, and Muzaffar Jang. Two people fighting for domination. Vikas, concentrate in class. Happens sometime. Concentrate. Nizamul Mulk Asaf Jah. There are two people who are fighting here. Nasir Jang and Muzaffar Jang. And finally, Dost Ali is dead. And there are two people who will start to fight for his throne. One naturally is Anwaruddin, and the other one is Chand Sahib. So this is what do we call this? War of succession? Nothing. I have not even started the basic point. This is called War of Succession. Nizamul Mulk Asaf Jah has died. So you have Nasir Jang and Muzaffar Jang fighting. And Dost Ali is fighting with Chand Sahib, who will capture power. Standard thing which happens in India. We are ready to slaughter each other for internal politics. And now there are two wars of succession which are happening. Scene is set. Everybody understand what is happening. Don't have to worry about the names. Understand the concept. Scene set. Everybody with me. Now you see how the British and the French will start to play India. Anwaruddin will be supported by the English. And Nasir Jang, the English will support. I've already done that, Satya. I've put in a flow chart. For first war of succession, or first Karnatic War. And on the other hand, Muzaffar Jang will get the support from the French, and Chand Sahib will get the support from the French here. It's now become a match between the English and the French. Who can fight this battle? Basically, both have their own candidates. Here there's an alliance between the French, Chand Sahib, and Muzaffar Jang. And this is versus the English Nasir Jung and Anwaruddin. Makes sense? The two sides which have been developed. Is this clear? I want everybody's assertion because there is nothing here. It's just a sequence of events. Okay. Now, next what is going to happen? Next what is going to happen is very simply, the French Muzaffar Jung and Chand Sahib will dominate, and Anwaruddin will be killed and Nasir Jung will be killed. Basically, English side starts to lose. Again, the French have been able to show that their faction is stronger. Now, Muzaffar Jung, rather, I put it the other way around. Chand Sahib is able to kill Anwaruddin, and Muzaffar Jung is able to kill Nasir Jung. Simple point is, French faction is winning. Or rather has an edge. Let's say, has an edge. Now, very simply, this meant that the French now have influence over Hyderabad and Karnatic. They have influence over Hyderabad and Karnatic. The French take a lot of territory also, what is called the northern Sirkars. The French also appoint a person into Hyderabad's court called Debussy. But the problem was that Anwaruddin's son Muhammad Ali was still alive. The basic point is, if he's alive, can Chand Sahib technically fully control Karnatic? Yes or no? No? Now, if that is the case, they now start to concentrate on capturing or killing Muhammad Ali. And the problem is that Muhammad Ali is able to move to a fort which is a little bit far away from the capital of Karnatic. The Karnatic capital is Erkot, and Muhammad Ali is sitting where? Yes, Rajshri, very good. Trinchinopoly. And he is in the fort of Trinchinopoly. At this point of time, if you had to put your money You would put it on the French or the English? You will put your money on the French. But never do that. Never count the British out. Whilst the French and Chand Sahib are concentrating on Polly, the English attack Arcot. The English attack Arcot. Basically, they push into Arcot. So they could know that Chand Sahib and the French are concentrating on Trinopoli. So the English attack Arcot in what is called the siege of Arcot. And as soon as that happens, Chand Sahib, against the wishes of the French, Chand Sahib dashes towards Arcot. And without the French, these all are useless. And what is going to happen is, as soon as Chand Sahib will move towards Arcot, the English will kill Chand Sahib and turn the tide of the war. And thereafter, they'll take Karnatic, and also once they have Karnatic, they will be able to take Hyderabad by killing the French supported ruler. And very simply, this whole episode will end in the Treaty of what? Treaty of Pondicherry, in which the French will conceive defeat and English will win. Now you see the beauty of English tactics. Whilst there is the whole period, it seemed that the French would win. It's just that one dash towards Trinopoli, that the French and Chand Sahib was concentrating on Trinopoli. It simply got out of hand as soon as they were able to take Arcot. They were able to take Arcot in what is called the Second Karnatic War. Simple. Let's repeat it out of the PPT and then I'll give you the flowchart. Can we do that? Is this making sense? Is this making sense? Yes, it is. Great. So let's read it out. There is a civil war in Hyderabad and Karnatic over the issue of succession. And now these European powers will start to meddle with the internal politics. In Karnatic, Chand Sahib and Anwaruddin are having a proper battle. And in Hyderabad, it is Muzaffar Jung and Nasir Jung who are fighting. So basically, there are two camps which develop. Nasir Jung and Muzaffar Jung got the support of the English, got the support of the French. And Dost Ali will get support of the Anwaruddin will get support of the English and the French. So there is one alliance which has been made. Why is this war and why is this moment very, very important? Darshan, you don't remember anything, you understand the basic concept. Don't have to remember anything. Tell me, why is this moment important in Indian history? Darshan, tell me, come on. What does it show and why is this a very dangerous moment? It's a smart move by the British, sure. It's a very, very smart move by the British, but it has shown a very dangerous tendency which the Europeans will develop. What is that? What is that? Yes, very good, very good, very good, Shamil. Which is meddling into Indian politics. Meddling into Indian politics. They had nothing to do at all. And basically now they're choosing sides. Now they're choosing sides. Have you heard about something? Isn't this divide and rule? Rings a bell. This is the genesis of divide and rule. That they very simply are dividing India according to their internal politics. Now very simply, combined forces of Muzaffar Jung, Chand Sahib and French will defeat and kill Anwaruddin in the Battle of Ambur. Does not matter to you. Chand Sahib was appointed the Nawab, while Muhammad Ali, the son of Anwaruddin, fled to Trinopoli. Thereafter, the French and Chand Sahib now surrounded the fort of Trinopoli, and Nasir Jung will also be killed by Muzaffar Jung by 1750. Nasir Jung was killed, Muzaffar Jung was victorious. Now, in return to this, Dupleix will ask the Hyderabad governor that you give us the territory south of the Krishna river. Again, don't have to remember, but this is what is happening. Territories near Pondicherry, Mostlypatnam given to the French. French also get northern Sirkar. Everything looks like the French. Looks like the French are going to win. However, the French were too happy controlling this area, not realizing that the English were regrouping. French will control the northern Sirkars. They will appoint a person called Captain Bussy to sit in the court of Hyderabad. However, Muzaffar Jung will be killed by another internal politics. So Salabat Jung will be supported by the French, and basically the French control Hyderabad. I don't want you to do anything with regards to names. You just understand the larger concepts here. The simplest of simplest points is, once it seems that the French have control, the English will start to gain momentum in what is called the siege of Arcot. The villain of India, Robert Clive, again, HR1, if you're able to understand me, just follow the flowchart I'm making. Robert Clive, who won Hyderabad? The French. Clive will now come to the Karnatic sector and do a sudden raid of Arcot, the capital of Carnatic, to divert the pressure of Trinopoli. Chand Sahib will be forced to return to Arcot. Trinopoli siege will be a combined army of Mysore, Tanjore, Marathas and Robert Clive, which I will discuss with you. The fact that everybody was against at this point of time the French. And Chand Sahib will be executed and captured in the island of Srirangam. And Muhammad Ali will be installed as the Nawab of Carnatic. The English have now turned the tide in Carnatic sector, and thereafter the French will be defeated in what we call as the Hyderabad sector also. The French will not be happy with Dupleix. He will be called back, and Godehu will be appointed as Governor General of India for the French in India. His name and his actions are very well Godehu, and he will be able to then negotiate a treaty called the Treaty of Pondicherry. And in the treaty, they will say that we will give back each other our territories. We will go back to where we were, but now Hyderabad was more or less with the English. But the biggest joke of the century is said in this treaty. Both the companies promised that they will not interfere in the internal matters of Indian rulers. This is the joke of the century which they made, both the French and the English, that they will never interfere in internal politics. The simple point is, what is the second Carnatic War? The second Carnatic War is after Trinopoli, English turned the tide, take Carnatic and then take Hyderabad. End of story. What happened to Muzaffar Jang? Muzaffar Jang was killed by his own noble. So the Salabat Jang was appointed. Again, I made you understand one basic point. The nitty-gritties don't matter here. The larger story matters here. Who won the second Carnatic War? You tell me. The English. They won it by turning the tide at Arcot. Now, how did they do it? Where did they do it? Doesn't really matter to us. They take the Arcot sector, they take Carnatic, they push into Hyderabad and take Hyderabad. End of story. I'm giving you a flow chart. You look at it, right? See, you have Hyderabad and Carnatic. Wars of succession. War of succession. Anwaruddin Nasir Jang and the English versus Chand Sahib, Muzaffar Jang and French. Simplest point. The French win the first round of wars. Anwaruddin dead. Muhammad Ali son in Trichinopoli. Now French go for capturing Trichinopoli. Muzaffar Jang kills Nasir Jang. Hyderabad and Carnatic both in the hands of the French. Now is the tide turning. Tide turns when English go for a quick, what is called conquest, a quick war or conquest of Arcot. Chand Sahib killed. Carnatic regained back. Hyderabad follows. Duplex called back and Treaty of Pondicherry. Can you remember this basic flowchart? Can you? Yes? Is this clear? Please, you have to tell me. These are very longish descriptive stories. I'm trying to give you a basic idea here. There is no way out. There is no magic I can do. And there is nothing. I can only make it as engaging as possible and as clear and simple as possible. What happened in Hyderabad is the English dash into it and kill Salabat Jung. That's it. See, the French are all good till a point. Once the English, Robert Clive comes to India, Clive changes the tide quickly, very, very, very quickly. So the Second Karnatic War ends with the English now controlling Hyderabad and Karnatic both. So if you want the minute details of what happens in Hyderabad, I'll be happy to share it with you, but it is irrelevant. Salabat Jung will be killed by the English, and simply, the concept is that the English will seize power. Can I move to the last war, the shortest of all of them, simplest of all of them, simplest. If you can't look at, like I told you, sit back and enjoy the movie. It's just a movie. I'm giving you the sequence of events. I'm showing it to you on a map. It should not be a problem. It should not be a problem. How did the French face financial losses? Because when they will lose Carnatic, the English will seize everything in that sector. So Duplex will be asked, why did it happen? One after the other. Once Clive will come to India, he will turn the tide. You are asking questions which make sense, but in the larger scheme of things makes no sense. Simple point is, French will lose to the English very quickly, and that is the problem with the French. The French are not able to respond quickly. This is the problem. The French do not respond quickly as the English. Why? Why is that the French are not able to respond quickly? Yes, the British are a privately funded company. Clive can take decisions himself. For everything, the French have to ask the French crown. So nobody had any idea what was happening. See, I will teach you, when I will teach you world history, I will tell you the French are a useless country when it comes to fighting with the British. They look like they're winning, they look like they're winning, they look like they're winning, and they will lose. Because the French have a lethargy, have a very bad way of taking decisions. Very bad way of taking decisions. Now, can I discuss the Third Karnatic War, the smallest and the easiest of all of them? Yes? Then we take a break. Now, let's go back to the map. Third Karnatic War. You will find these two dates, both of them written. Dates don't really matter for me. They're only good to write one thing, which is constitutions. That's it. The French know how to write constitutions. That's it. Okay. That too don't know how to implement them, only write constitutions. We'll discuss that in world history, French Revolution. Now, the Third Karnatic War context is again back in Europe. Which is called the Austrian War of Succession in 1756-63 period. Maria Theresa will die. And now again the question of who will come to power in Austria comes to the question. And again the British and the French will come to odds with each other. And they will fight a war. That war will go on for how many years? 7. And that is why it is called the 7 Years' War. Very simply named 7 Years' War. 7 Years' War is an extension of the Austrian War of Succession. I'll give you a question and you will realize that what really matters in this story. I'll give you a mains question and then you will realize what type of question can come. So now 7 Years' War is again happening. So the context of the third Karnatic War has led to the what we call as the 7 Years War. And because it is the 7 Years War which has become problematic, it will again spill over into India. It will spill over into India. And this time again, you will have Pondicherry and Madras in picture. But there will also be another sector here, which is called Vizinga, technically Vishakhapatnam, but the old name, which is called Vizinganagara, which is nothing but Vishakhapatnam. And there will be one very important battle at a place called Vandivash. At a place called Vandivash. Again, here the first aggressor is the French. The French will move and capture Madras and the Vishakhapatnam sector. French will capture. But again, the person, Delali, if you remember, he is the governor. Delali will not be able to hold on to either Madras or Vizingapuram or Visakhapatnam because of no reinforcements. Why didn't the reinforcements come? Sachin, I'll talk about that. Again, sleeping. Acha, we are fighting in India. Okay, we need to do something. They don't care only. And now the English will get up, the mighty English in that sense, will recapture Madras, recapture Vishakhapatnam, and the French and the English will meet in what is called the Battle of Vandivash. And the French will be fully defeated. French will be fully defeated. I will give you a break once this is over. I can't break the flow. It's already too many names. Will be fully defeated. And it is believed that after the Battle of Vandivash, the French ceased to be a threat in this coast. And the English will be able to first humiliate Delali, then humiliate the French, and basically win over this sector. This war will end when the 7 Years War will end in Europe, which is called the Peace of Paris or the Treaty of Paris. And at the Treaty of Paris, the French will be pity. They will be given they'll say, take Pondicherry, no issue. Take Pondicherry, enjoy. But you will not now challenge me. So the English, out of pity, out of humiliating the French, will say, take Pondicherry. But after this, you will not dominate or try to dominate this area. So the Third Karnatic War is just the French showing a lot of aggression, then getting humiliated by the English. Does this make sense? Because then I bring all of these together and basically that the Karnatic sector is over. So what is the Third Karnatic War? The Third Karnatic War, very simply, is linked to the 7 Years War, which is again happening in Europe. Austria and France versus Great Britain and Prussia. Again, both Britain and France are on opposite sides itself. It's an extension of the Austrian War of Succession. War of Succession. And very simply, Arthur de Lally will go and take St. David Fort and what is called Vishakhapatnam in 1758. De Lally will not get any naval support when he will be holding on to Madras. The English will become very offensive and inflict heavy losses to the French at Mauchlypatnam. And this in turn will be followed by what is called the Battle of Vandewash. And the English general de Coote will totally defeat the French under de Lally. Pondicherry will be gallantly defended by de Lally. However, he would have to give it up by 1761, and he will be taken as a prisoner of war to London. This battle is seen as the turning point of French and Anglo-French rivalry in India, because after this, the French will cease to be anything or of any use to the whole story. De Lally's mistake, one after the other, was that he had removed any influence which was there in Hyderabad. The English were very quick to take over Hyderabad after the Second Karnatic War. French had lost all influence in the Deccan sector. De Lally is also not a good general because he used to humiliate his subordinates. So they were already demoralized before fighting with the English. And basically the French army will now act like the French, which is technically be useless in front of the English. And in the end, it will end with the Treaty of Paris. French possessions will be made protectorate states, that basically only the French can protect them, not expand. Pondicherry will be returned in pity. No fortifications will be allowed, no standing army. And this sealed the French ambition in India. The French will cease to be a threat to the English in this whole sector. And that is the basic story here. That the what is called the Anglo-French rivalry or the Carnatic Wars are very, very important because they seal the fate of that rivalry. English have finally been able to show their mettle and comprehensively defeat the French. Why did the French be defeated? French state company, directors the directors were appointed by the crown, lethargy and bureaucratic control. English East India Company is a private entity. They were very quick to respond to any situation. And the French itself did not understand what was really happening. They did not understand what was actually happening. And in the English army was much, much, much powerful than the French generally. So if you have to summarize it, first, dependence on their governments. French monarchy had put all the money. Fiscal position was very shaky. English proper invested private company. And second, because it did not have shareholders and the shareholders were more or less not interested, they always took a lot of time to take decisions. Dividends were already guaranteed to everybody by the French. However, the British will always be aggressive because they were answerable to their shareholders. I asked you a very important question. What is the advantage of a private company over a public company? Now, do you understand that question? Why did I ask you? This is the major difference between the French and the English in India. The French will keep on waiting for orders to come and come and come. English will take orders quickly and end the story itself. Simply, before we now take a break and before we go to Bengal itself, these are the three Carnatic Wars. First, second, third. For the examination, remember this. Pon Pa, Aix-la-Chapelle, Pondicherry, Paris. French were victorious in only one. Thereafter, both they are defeated. Years don't matter because I will show you in the end what to do with the years. Simple. Before we talk about conquest of Bengal, the first Carnatic War is a product of the Austrian War of Succession. The third Karnatic War is an extension of that, which is the 7 Years' War. The second Karnatic War is about internal politics. Simple is, the French were initially very powerful, the English are able to take it back. Now, can I give you a mains question to demonstrate what type of question will come from this area? And then you tell me, do the names really matter? Okay, very simple, very simple. The Karnatic Wars in India were an extension of the conflict and politics of Europe. Elucidate. Now you tell me, do the names really matter? Do they read the questions? The question is asking you about names. It's a very, very relevant question. This is the type of questions which come in the examination. The Karnatic Wars in India were an extension of the conflict and politics of Europe. Elucidate. What do you need to write in this? What do you need to write in this? You have to technically talk about how the Austrian War of Succession and the 7 Years' War, which are European conflicts, technically spill over into India. And that is why the Karnatic Wars are not part of Indian politics, but rather spillover effects of the European politics. Are you getting my point? Are you getting my point? And I'll give you another question to show you what type of question can come from the other part. From the other part. You want this to be a 10 marker, it's a 10 marks. 10 marks means 150 words. Now I'll give you another type of question. See, the second Karnatic War introduced a dangerous tendency in the Indian subcontinent and showed the real intention of the Europeans in India. Comment. 10 marks. Now tell me, is the second question asking you the story of the second Karnatic War, or what is it asking you about? It's asking you about the implications of that war. What is that dangerous tendency we're talking about? Meddling in of the Europeans into Indian politics. And you can easily say that basically divide and rule was the new tendency they were able to use to technically capture and increase their influence. Now, are you able to understand why we are doing what we are doing? And though it is my responsibility and my duty to tell you all the stories in detail, all of them, their significance is important, their understanding is important, their larger implications are important than actually the basic war itself. UPSC will never say, write a short note on the third Karnatic War. That is not the way UPSC asks questions. UPSC will always ask questions which are conceptual, theoretical, trying to understand that do you understand the politics itself. Now, if this is clear, can we take a break and agree to be on the same page when I'm now going to teach you Bengal? East India Company is not controlled by the government directly. It is controlled by its court of directors. I want everybody. See, this is I told you in history there is this painful part. This and the social religious reform movement, tribal and peasant revolt. Other than that, there is no area like this. I promise you. You have to bear with me in Karnatic, Mysore, Maratha, Bengal. I'm already telling you this, and I want your agreement before we take a break. The wars, socio-religious reform, tribal and peasant. These are the three themes which are factual. You promise me that you don't judge modern India by these three themes. Then only I take a break. You need to promise me this, that we don't judge history by these three themes, because this is actually not history. Trust me, and this is a very big request from me. And if you actually will agree with me on this, I will make sure that you never struggle in modern India. Don't judge, don't get bogged down. The British wears us down, don't get bogged down. Once we are out of these themes, land revenue settlements, commercialization, drain of wealth, deindustrialization, you will literally enjoy. Promise, and that is my promise to you. Let's take a break now. We'll be back at 7:30. And once we are back, we talk about Plassey, Buxar. Plassey and Buxar, the most important discussion. Plassey and Buxar, right? Thank you. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for being understanding. Sorry, I'll discuss with the power, which, because if you look at the dates, 1754, 1758, before one month, just before 1 year before that, something is going to happen in Bengal, and we need to understand this. Can we basically now go to Bengal? Can we go to Bengal? ADBC, just read the PPT. If it doesn't make sense, email me. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. Now, see, Bengal is a very important sector. A very, very important sector. And the Bengal politics is also very, very interesting, in the sense that when we talk about the Nawab of Bengal, whatever you want to call him, Nawab, Sultan, whatever, there are two very important factions which control this Nawabship. First are the bankers, second are the traders. Yes. There's nothing, no connection, ADBC. Just concentrate here. We are talking about Bengal, and in Bengal, that is a wholly different sector itself. Bankers and traders are very, very important. Basically, if you have their support, you can come to power. You can come to power. And there's a very important, three very important bankers. Jagat Seth and Omi Chand. Jagat Seth and Omi Chand are literally kingmakers at this point of time. Kingmakers at this point of time. And there is also internal politics of succession. Same story, internal politics. Ghasiti Begum will discuss all these things. The king, the Senapati wants to be the king. The cook wants to be the king. Everybody wants to be the king. Simple point is, if you ask anybody, what do you want to be? We want to be the Nawab. So the basic problem is that everybody has their own internal understanding, and bankers, meaning the people who fund the government, are very important. So Ali Vardi Khan had a lot of support of Jagat Seth and Omi Chand. However, when it came to his successor, Siraj-ud-Daulah, Sirajuddaula said that too much influence Jagat Seth is having over the Nawabship or the Nawab. Basically, he dictates everything. Why should I go where Jagat Seth tells us? The simple point of the matter is, Bengal traders and bankers are extremely important. Even today, traders and bankers are very important. An internal political succession is there. Alivardi Khan had a lot of support of Jagat Seth and Omi Chand. But Sirajuddaula, as soon as he comes to power in 1756, he says enough is enough. I will not take these bankers and traders telling me what to do. Can we agree to this perceived conflict between bankers and Sirajuddaula? Yes, great. Now for the English, Bengal is 80% of all trade. Of all trade happens from Bengal. And much like the southern sector, the Karnatic sector, in Bengal we have the French and the English both. The English are concentrated in what we call as Calcutta. 3 villages together, Govindpur, Calicut, coming together to what is called Calcutta. And the French are in a place called Chandranagar. They are also in what is called the Qasim Bazar area. Basic point is, if this is Bengal, and you have the Hooghly or the Ganga rather going through, on both sides of the Hooghly, you have settlements. And the English and the French exist vis-a-vis each other. The English enjoy the 1651 Farman and the 1717 Farman and trade only for 300 rupees per annum. They're able to trade for free internally. Any issues in the 2 stories I told you, which is Bengal technically controlled by the Sirajuddaula, and Sirajuddaula is not having good relationship with the bankers, and English and French both are present in Bengal, and basically the English French are in front of each other. So this is Bengal. Both are present, and Sirajuddaula technically does not have a good relationship with bankers. Scene set. Can I talk about the story now? Great. Now what happens is that in between 1756 to 55 to 56 period, 55 to 56 period, 55 to 56 period. See, Anglo-French rivalry comes to Bengal. They had already fought in the Karnatic sector. And now there's a rising tension between the French and the British. So the tension between French and English, and the resultant concept is both start to fortify, which is make walls and install weapons in their factories without asking Siraj-ud-Dawla. Without asking Siraj-ud-Dawla. So though both know that there could be a fight in Bengal itself, they start to fortify their settlements. Both start to fortify their settlements. And very simply, Siraj-ud-Dawla now will not like this. Siraj-ud-Dawla already had a problem with the British, how they were exploiting Bengal. Siraj-ud-Dawla will not like either of this. Which is, basic point is, English already over exploiting the Farmans, and add to it this basic tension. What is the tension? The tension is Anglo-French rivalry, which is happening where? In Europe. In Europe. There is a rising tension between the French and the English in Europe, and very simply the English don't and the French don't want to fight in Bengal. If there is going to fighting, there will be fortification. Aurangzeb is already dead, 1707. The already 50 years of his death. The basic point of the matter is, now Siraj-ud-Dawla, please listen to me. Tension means, what is tension? Tension means conflict. The resultant concept is very simple, is that Siraj-ud-Dawla will ask both to stop their fortification. Any issues till this point? Siraj-ud-Dawla has asked both English and the French to stop their fortification. They were doing it without the permission of Siraj-ud-Dawla. Now the French will stop fortifications, but fortification means making walls and installing guns. The English will not obey or stop their fortifications. And this is going to lead to a very important moment, which is called the Black Hole Incident. Tragedy. I will not call it tragedy. Anything happening to the British is not a tragedy for us. Very good, they deserve it. Now, the Black Hole incident is very simple. This is Fort William, and Siraj-ud-Dawla enters. He starts to beats up anybody, any white man he sees. He says, get into your boats and leave Bengal. Right now, leave Bengal. I will not tolerate this type of behavior. When I'm asking you to stop, doing fortifications, stop doing it. And now he will say, board your ships, leave. Right now, leave. Fort William is their settlement. Their settlement in Calcutta. This is their English settlement. English factory is called Fort William. The simple point is that they say leave. Enough. You have already misused the dastak. You've already misused the farmans. Enough is enough. Leave. But there were only limited number of ships available at this point of time. So he says, okay, do one thing, leave tomorrow. Leave, I don't want to see anybody. But what is going to happen is that there was a small room, very small room in the basement of Fort William. Very small room in the basement of Fort William. And he will tell that whoever has not left, put them into this room. Put them into this room. And this, it is believed that 150 to 300 people were crammed into a small basement in the Fort William. And there was only one small window in the side of it. Small window. And the men of Sirajuddaula will lock them in the night, 300 people. And when they will come in the morning, when you have too many people with less ventilation, what happens? Suffocation. Basically, in the morning, only 100 or what we call as 80 people survived. And this is very ominously called the black hole incident. Black hole. We know that the data has been manipulated. That room cannot fit 300 people. They were not boxes that you can stack one above them, the other. The British exaggerated the number. The British exaggerated the number. 10, 15, 10, 15 would have died for sure. But not 100 plus. Because that was not the place. That area does not even have that much space. It's not that you kept the people one over the other and then locked the room. It's not they're people. But the British will now start to exaggerate. The British will start to now exaggerate the data. They will start to argue. You will get different number of data. One will say 126, one will say 150, some will be 300. Everybody said something happened. It is called black hole tragedy incident. The basic point of the matter is this is now going to be the turning point. Because the British wanted an entry into Bengal and the British did not have an excuse for it. Sirajuddaula had a very straightforward policy, leave. You leave right now, you leave. And now what is going to happen is that Robert Clive, who was being now sent to the Karnatic sector, will be asked to go to Bengal and he will reach Calcutta. And based on the public opinion, there is a hue and cry in England. People died. Sirajuddaula, monster. He killed everybody. Everybody was suffocated. Imagine how the news channels every day show everything. See the way people are crammed. See the people how they died. There's a whole concept of creating public opinion so that the British could now fight. Can fight. Refresh AB, AD. The basic point of the matter is Calcutta, Robert Clive will reach and now Clive will fight will fight. Siraj-ud-Dowla and British will win. And they will sign what is called the Treaty of Alinagar. Under Treaty of Alinagar, all settlements given back to British. French need to leave Bengal, and Siraj will compensate for the incident. So now the British are showing their true colors. So basic sequence is rising tension. Siraj says no. English don't stop. Black hole incident happens. And now Treaty of Alinagar is signed when Clive will fight with Siraj-ud-Dowla. Siraj-ud-Dowla did not have the strength anyway. And the British will win and now sign the Treaty of Alinagar. Till this point, everything is clear. Rahul, refresh. Yes? Very good. Now. Clive was like, I need to kill the issue. But very ominously, Treaty of Alinagar is nothing but the treaty signed between Siraj-ud-Dowla and Clive. After Clive won, everything given back, French need to go, and you compensate for the people who died. But now, Siraj-ud-Dowla was not liked by these bankers. And the bankers loved the English because the English used to take money from them. Traders, bankers, all loved the English. They believed that the English can give them more wealth. Now listen to me very clearly, very, very clearly. Alinagar. Everything is written in the PPT, don't worry. Black hole incident, he captures people, keeps them in a dungeon, they die, that becomes moral justification to fight with Siraj-ud-Dowla. Now, Jagat Seth and Omi Chand say that why do we need Siraj-ud-Dowla? Why do we need Siraj-ud-Dowla? Basically, he is only hurting us and he's hurting, these are Indians. They're hurting us and they're hurting British interest. So now Clive was looking for a solution. He knew that Siraj-ud-Dowla next day or next month or next year will again regroup and he will come for the English. So now Robert Clive starts to look around in Bengal to find a solution. And in the most fateful of everything, fateful moment in Indian history, Jagat Seth and Omi Chand will invite Clive and explain to Clive that no one really likes Siraj-ud-Dowla. And what they will explain to Clive is that there's a set of people in Siraj-ud-Dowla's court which don't want him there. And if you're able to convince them, it's all a conspiracy explained by Jagat Seth and Amir or Omi Chand to Clive, that see, the Mir Bakshi, which is the Senapati, he himself wants to be the king, Mir Jafar. They said that the officer who is in charge of Calcutta, he is also not happy, Manik Chand. Rai Durlabh, who was the treasurer of the Nawab, he also wants to be the Nawab. And the aunt of Siraj-ud-Dowla, Ghasiti Begum, is also not happy with Siraj-ud-Dowla, along with his biggest contingent commander, Kadim Khan. Now you tell me one thing, this type of information would Clive get automatically? No. He was given this information by the collaborators. This is called the Vibhishan moment in that sense, that basically all internal politics of Sirajudaulah is very well explained to Clive. Clive now understands that if I play Ghasiti with Kadim Khan, with Rai Durlab, with Mir Jafar, all of them want power. And Jagat Seth said that if you play them well, they will be ready to betray Sirajudaulah. And now Robert Clive goes into an understanding with all of them. And the understanding was, I will provoke Sirajudaulah for a war. Kadim Khan, don't fight. Mir Jafar, don't fight. And once you enter the battlefield, just retreat. And basically, out of his four generals, Kadim Khan, Mir Jafar, Mir Majan, I'll tell you that, Mir Madan and Mohanlal. These are the four basic. Mir Madan, Mohanlal, Kadim Khan and Mir Jafar. Only two will fight. And this battle is faithfully called the Battle of Plassey. At Plassey, Sirajudaulah was not defeated. He was betrayed. There was no battle. Basically, his own men left him to die, and the son of Mir Jafar is the one who goes and kills Sirajudaulah. If this story doesn't make you really angry and make you really understand what is happening here, then I'll repeat it for you. Battle of Plassey is not a battle. It is the internal politics of Jagat Seth, Omi Chand, Manik Chand, Rai Durlab, Ghasiti Begum, Kadim Khan and Mir Jafar to basically give Clive Bengal. Miran, his name is Miran. Simple. Clive goes to war with Siraj. Siraj has four generals: Mir Madan, Kadim Khan, Mir Jafar, and Mohanlal. If you add all of them, you get the Bengal army. Simple point is, Mohanlal and Mir Madan will fight. But the biggest contingent won't. Clive was handed Bengal on a platter, literal platter. And as soon as Sirajudaulah will be killed, Mir Jafar will be now made the Nawab of Bengal. Can I repeat this story out of the whole PPT so that we reinforce it? Yes? Great. Now, anybody who was not able to listen, please listen to me. One of the richest province is Bengal. It had authority over Bihar, Orissa, Bangladesh, that whole sector. 60 to 80% of all British imports are happening via Bengal itself. By 1698, they were controlling what is called Calcutta. Sutani, Kalikata and Govindpur, these three villages. By 1651, they already had access because of the Farman. They built a very small fort factory in 1696, which is called Fort William. And basically, the British were always interested in Bengal because that is a very important sector. Now, there was proper rampant corruption and misuse by the company. We know that, and the Nawab did not like that. And when Sirajuddaula will come to power, he will not like the fact that the British are playing Bengal. And this suspicion was starting to rise, and Murshid Quli Khan was also very suspicious of this story. However, when the British and the French will start improving their fortifications in anticipation of another war, first Karnatic War had already happened, the Sirajuddaula will say, don't, stop. Without the permission, you can't do it. The French will agree, but the English won't. And when the British refuse to cease their constructions, the Nawab will reach Calcutta with 3,000 men, and he will take everybody in the factory and in the fort prisoner at Qasim Bazar. And this will be the turning point of the story, because this in turn will lead to what is called the Black Hole incident. Fort William had been surrendered, but with people suffocating because of his officers putting them in a small dungeon, a basement, now rises the conspiracy that we need to take Bengal. The British started to show their own people as heroes against the Nawab, who is a monster. Now there was a justification to fight with the Bengali army or with the Nawab itself. And with this, Clive will reach Bengal and he will be diverted to take revenge for the Black Hole incident. In February of 1757, he will come there with a very strong navy and he will defeat Sirajuddaula, and they will sign what is called the Treaty of Alinagar. The English were given all former privileges, granted the permission to go for fortifications, and you need to pay for the compensation for everything which the English take compensation. The English are very, very quick to take compensation, For everything they do, they take compensation. Haven't compensated for anything till today, but they take compensation very quickly. Now, what do you need to remember for prelims examination is just that Plassey happened in Bengal. That's it. Don't go into the story. Now, Clive will enter into an agreement with the leading men of Nawab's court, Jafar, Jagat Seth, Omi Chand, Manik Chand, Rai Durlab, Ghasiti Begum and Kadim Khan. And about 30 kilometers away from Murshidabad, the capital of Bengal, on 23rd June 1757, battle will happen, what is called the Battle of Plassey, but only in name. The battle was merely a skirmish, as nobody really fought from the side of Sirajuddaula. Only Mir Madan and Mohanlal will fight. And the Nawab will be killed by Mir Jafar's son Miran, in turn ending the Battle of Plassey with basically Mir Jafar as king. Why is it important? Because now Mir Jafar will shower the English with money. Beyond exception. Which is that now Mir Jafar will just become a puppet in the hands of Clive. And this battle, though not decisive, will be the turning point for Indian history. Remember, Battle of Plassey is just a small war in which nobody technically helped Sirajuddaula. But there was still hope because full Bengal had not gone to Clive. One of the richest province was now under his puppet Mir Jafar. But basically, the Plassey period, the Battle of Plassey, is just a small moment. It is not Plassey but Buxar which changed everything. Because Plassey appointed Mir Jafar, which was still okay. Buxar is going to be the turning point. Can I talk about Buxar now? Basic point is no. Imagine. School. I'll tell you very simply what is Plassey. I'll tell you Plassey. You would have seen Plassey in your own house. You have three siblings. For example. All three of you want to go to, for example, to the theme park. Now what is going to happen is, all three will say that let's go to mom and dad, and we will say that we want to go to the theme park. They will say, we all will say. And as soon as you reach your parents, both your siblings ditch you and you are the only one saying that you want to go to the theme park. This is called treachery. And this is what is Plassey. Sirajuddaula was said that yes, let's go and fight the British. And once they started to fight the British, everybody came back and Sirajuddaula was alone fighting. Basically, it was not a fight. It was a conspiracy. It was treachery. So basic point is, Plassey is not opening up Bengal. Buxar is. Can I discuss Buxar? And then we end for today. French did not help because the French are more or less useless. They didn't understand the importance of this whole story. Okay. Don't expect too much from the French. They're not that useful. Okay. That what happened in Plassey is just treachery. He was not helped by anybody. His own men abandoned him. He will be killed by his own general's son. Okay. Now, Mir Jafar has come to power. The British will literally make Mir Jafar give them everything. 50 lakh rupees will be taken. Because I fought, thak gaya hu. 50 lakh rupees de do. Because I was fighting, I'm tired. Give me 50 lakh rupees. Because there was inconvenience in fighting. They will take 50 lakh rupees. The company will have the dastak. Each and every company officer will become a trader. They will literally start to loot Bengal, and this is called the looting of Bengal. Bengal will literally be looted. So Mir Jafar completely dependent on the English. Murshidabad will now be under Clive sitting there. Clive will actually become the Zamindar. He'll become the Zamindar of Bengal. Any other European power will be removed. British officers will pay no tax if they even trade themselves. Imagine that the custom officers themselves start to become export importers. The company received the zamindari, meaning that they become the owners of the 24 Parganas area. Robert Clive has now been given the most important position, the governor of Bengal. He's been made. 50 lakh rupees has been transferred. 50 lakh rupees has been transferred by Mir Jafar to company officers, and all French settlements are removed. Basically, Mir Jafar was just letting the British loot Bengal. Personal trade was allowed. Local traders were not able to compete. Dastaks sold to anybody and everybody. And the first dastak, tell me, who will receive the first dastak? The first concession? You tell me. First governor of Bengal, Clive, yes. Tell me, who is that person who did all of this? Clive though is the person who gives the dastak. Whose idea was this? It was not Robert Clive's. It was not Farooq Siyar. It is not Mir Qasim. You know the answer. Very good, Shamil. Jagat Seth. Both Jagat Seth and Omi Chand will technically get duty-free friendly local passes. Gifts will be accepted. The Nawab will literally go bankrupt. The Nawab will literally go bankrupt. Bengal was looted like it was the personal property of Robert Clive. Clive, from a general, became a millionaire. From a general, became a millionaire. Millionaire, literal millionaire. And the simple point is that now Mir Jafar will start to feel, what am I doing? What am I doing? I'm literally selling Bengal. So his conscience will rise. Finally, that person will get a little bit of guilt. And in 1759, he will approach another power which was there in India other than the French. Whom? The Dutch. Mir Jafar will approach the Dutch and they say, I have made a mistake. The English are literally sucking my blood. Please help me remove them. Dutch still existed. This is the last moment of English-French or English-Dutch rivalry. And the Dutch will agree and they will fight what is called the Battle of Chinsura or the Battle of Bedara, in which the British will fight the Dutch. Dutch had been invited by Mir Jafar. Obviously, the British will win. And now Clive will say, you have this much guts. You called the Dutch to remove us. This much attitude, ego and guts you have. And Mir Jafar will be removed. And the person who will be appointed, Mir Qasim. So again, just repeating the story. Black hole happens. Clive goes into a conspiracy, does Plassey, gives Mir Jafar power. Mir Jafar for 2 years lets the British loot Bengal, and then he calls the Dutch and says, please solve my problem. And the Dutch, like the Dutch they are, get defeated to the English. English say, what? And remove Mir Jafar and appoint another person called Mir Qasim. Everybody is following me till this story? If you remember it like this, you will always remember it. Right? Okay. Why English always win? Because the English are smart. Too smart. Extremely smart. Now, Mir Qasim already knew that the British will sell me. So though Mir Qasim is appointed, another 1 crore is transferred to the British because he was made into the Nawab. So he transferred another amount, 50 to 60 lakh rupees. At that point of time, 50-60 lakh silver coins. And Mir Qasim knew that if I'm not going to do something quickly, I will be sold like Mir Jafar. So now he will do 2 very important things. First, he will shift the capital to Munger. And the reason for that basically was that by shifting it to Munger, The basic point of the matter is that he wanted to move away from Murshidabad. So he shifted the capital to move away from Murshidabad, which is technically where the British are sitting at this point of time. But Mir Qasim will literally do a master stroke, which will technically lead to the Battle of Buxar. See, what was the advantage of the English over the local traders? What was the advantage of the English over the local traders? What was the advantage? The advantage was that the English don't pay any tax because they pay 3,000 rupees. Yes, they have the power to trade freely and for free. Yes or no? You have to agree with me. They are duty free because they pay 3,000. Yes. So what Mir Qasim does is he makes whole of Bengal duty free for anyone and everyone. Huge farman. And the British will not like it one bit. The British will, technically the farman has been undercut. There is no point of the dastak, there is no point of the pass, there is no point of the farman because everybody is now a Britisher. The British will say, how dare you? And Mir Qasim will very quickly realize that he will not be able to fight the British alone and he will flee to Awadh. And our second hero of the story comes to picture, Shuja'ud-Dawla. Mir Jafar will be again appointed back as Bengal Nawab because somehow there was no other useless person to use. And now Shuja'ud-Dawla and Mir Qasim will say that we can't fight the British alone. And they will go to Shah Alam II sitting in Delhi. And this tripartite or triple alliance will now fight the British at Buxar in 1764. And as soon as the British under Thomas Munro will reach, the British will break through. They will literally bomb the army, and Mir Qasim will run away, and Shuja'ud-Dawla and Shah Alam II will surrender. And once they will surrender, the Battle of Buxar will lead to what is called the Treaty of Allahabad. And in this Treaty of Allahabad, the British were made the Diwan of Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa, in which what we call the 1765 grant of Diwani rights, which is revenue collection rights. And now the British transform from a small company. The East India Company now is a territorial power in India. Therefore, now the British will literally control this whole sector of India, and they will have the right to collect taxes. They will have the right to collect taxes in this sector for nothing at all. Is this clear till this point, everyone? I will read everything out to you. Is this making sense? Now, the British was smart. There are two offices. There are two offices in the Bengal administration. There are two offices in the Bengal administration. What are the two offices? Two offices. What are the two offices? I will read everything out to you. What are the two offices? Diwan and Nazim. The British said, we don't want Nazim's power. We only want Diwani. Why do they want only Diwani and not Nazim's power? You tell me. Why do they want the power of the IRS but they don't want the power of the IAS? Because they don't care about administration. They only care about revenue. Who will take the tension? So they will literally start to loot Bengal, literally squeeze Bengal. And when it will come to why is it happening? Because the Nazim is useless. He doesn't know how to do administration. Clive knew where to stop. Clive knew, if I take Nazim's power, the people will think that the British are ruling. No, Nawab is ruling, only a new Jamindar has come to town. So he wanted the butter, but he did not want to make the butter. So this is why Buxar is considered the turning point of Indian history. Because now the British cease to be a company, a commercial power, but a territorial power they will become. Are you getting the significance and importance? Then I read everything out to you, but I hope you understand the importance of this story. Is this making sense, everyone? Is this making sense? It is? Great. So let's read it out. And then we break for today. So simply, Mir Jafar has become bankrupt. He will now become more and more irritated with the British and Clive. Enter into a conspiracy with the Dutch. Dutch will now try to fight the British at Chinsura or Bedara and will be defeated in 1759. Mir Jafar will be removed and Mir Qasim will be appointed. And very simply, Mir Qasim will again give a lot of power to the British by giving them the Zamindari of Burdwan, Midnapur and Chittagong. Thereafter, they will also take half of the share in limestone trade. What is Chuna trade? Literally, British were literally taking half of the Chuna, but they were making the Chuna, or Indians were getting Chuna-fied. Pay off the outstanding dues of the company. Pay a sum of 5 lakh towards financing the companies of the efforts in the southern sector. And Mir Qasim was now made like a baby, like your enemy is my enemy, your friend is my friend. But Mir Qasim understood that basically the edge which the British had in the Karnatic Wars was that the money from Bengal was being pushed into Karnatic. So in the third Karnatic War, the British will win very quickly because they had Bengal. Now Mir Qasim will start to become frustrated. Qasim will now shift the capital from Murshidabad to Munger. He will change the bureaucracy also, and he will try to modernize the army. But because he knew that the power of the British was the misuse of the dastak, he tried to first plead to the British, don't do it, please. But the British did not say. Ultimately, he abolished all inland duties to bring Indian merchants at the same footing with the English. And this is going to infuriate the British itself. And in turn, hostilities will develop between Qasim and the British in 1763. Nawab will be defeated in a series of battles. He will flee to Awadh. At Awadh, he will form a triple alliance with Shujaud-Dawla and Shah Alam II. They will now, basically, the Allied strength outnumbered. They had a bigger army than the British. But now the British army will meet at Buxar on 22nd October 1764. Mir Qasim will be defeated by the British. Qasim will abscond, flee, and Sujaudollah and Shah Alam II will surrender to the British army. What they will fight and basically do is, what the consequence of this is, and this is very, very important for you, is that the Treaty of Allahabad was signed in 1765, and the basic point was Midnapur, Bodwan was fully transferred to the English. English were now given permission to trade duty-free. Mir Jafar was brought back, but on harsher terms. The British will now get a payment for whatever they've done for Mir Jafar. And the most important, they will start to play with the appointments in Bengal itself. But the most important is that the Sujaudollah will give the following things. He will give Allahabad and Kara to Shah Alam II. The British will say to Shah Alam II, why so sad? Why so sad? We'll get you something. So they say, Sujaudollah, give Allahabad and Kara to Shah Alam II. Let him live. Clive knew that he cannot remove the emperor right now. So he's now bringing him and he's pampering him. 50 lakh rupees war indemnity, because if the British are going to fight, they will take money. Maintain English forces. Shah Alam was now a pensioner. A company now made the emperor a pensioner. Pension was given to Shah Alam II. But the most important moment is this. Grant of Diwani, Bengal, Bihar, Orissa. But I told you that the British did not take Nazim's power. Yes or no? Tell me. I told you that they took Nazim's power. Yes? But the British said, no, we don't want. 53 lakhs rupees you give me. You take Nizamat, you take Nazim's power, but you give me 53 lakh rupees. I will take Diwani, don't want Nazim's power, but you pay 53 lakh rupees. You look at the greed of the English. They are foregoing it because they don't want it. But वो एहसान कर रहे, they're doing a favor. No, we don't want it. Not all this. You give me, we want Diwani. Perfect. But 53 lakh rupees is enough for all the inconvenience caused to us. The basic point is, Clive will now be the first governor of Bengal. He will also become the deputy Subedar in a way. The simplest of simplest points is, now the British control this whole sector. But the most important point is that the British will now technically dominate the eastern sector. The seeds of British imperialism and colonialism have now been flowered, and now their whole effort from 1613 has now finally given them sovereignty over Bengal. And while Plassey was just the first stage, Buxar was the real blow to India. And as I said, defense and foreign affairs, the company will keep with itself. It will keep itself with the revenue collection rights. But day-to-day administration, they will leave to a person called Reza Khan. They will say, we don't want power. We only want money. So in the end, before you leave today, first you tell me, did these two stories make sense? Karnatic subsidiary alliances later. Doctrinal Life Secretary will do that. Did these two stories make sense? It's a descriptive story. It's a long story. I know that. Simply, we've done Karnatic and Bengal. Carnatic sector, it is a spillover effect of Anglo-French rivalry, the Austrian War of Succession, 7 Years' War. But Bengal is a story of treachery. Bengal is a story of treachery. Treachery in the sense that Plassey was only the gate a little bit open. Buxar was the opening of the gate itself. That is why you will see these type of question, that whilst the Battle of Plassey was important, Battle of Buxar sealed the fate of India. Why? Because even after Plassey, there was some chance that the British would be defeated. But Buxar made British the predominant power in Bengal, and now they will start to exploit India, which I will discuss with you with regards to what is called economic policy of the British. But tomorrow when we meet, we will do two very important themes, Marathas and Mysore. Maratha, Mysore, Sikh is what we do tomorrow. Is everything clear? Is everybody with me? Is this making sense? I said after this it is not going to be painful. The pain is still only till here. After this point, no pain. I promise you that. Done, everyone? Sirajuddaula gives land to Shah Alam II because the British tried to show to Shah Alam II that we are your well-wisher. Right? So if you don't have a doubt, thank you so much for your patience. I understand it is heavy. I understand you are human. But as I said, I am going very slow to make you understand everything. Simple point is, if you will read it out of the book, it is extremely confusing way it is written. I am trying to make you understand basic points. Nitty-gritties don't matter. Smaller details don't matter. Understand the concept and implications. That is it. Bipin Chandra Shaifuddin. The basic point is, you read Bipin Chandra this section, you will yourself realize that the stories I am giving you are much more elaborate and simpler. Right? Done? See you. Please take care. You have the Satya. That's a good thing. If you still can concentrate, then it's okay. Thank you. I will see you at 5 o'clock tomorrow. We know about